You feel until it happens.
Most people lose their vision from diseases like macular degeneration and glaucoma, not at birth.
With macular degeneration, you lose your central vision.
You have a blind spot right in the center of your face, so I can't actually see your face.
So even that little circle in which I could see became a big blur.
I was 65 when I first was diagnosed with glaucoma.
There were no symptoms. I had no headaches.
3 million Americans have glaucoma, and half don't even know it.
11 million people in the United States have macular degeneration.
You lose mobility, independence, changes your entire life.
So many eye disorders can be treated if caught early.
My husband tells me that I have beautiful brown eyes, and I don't want to lose that.
Make a plan today to get your eyes checked.
Visit brightfocus.org to learn more.
The following program is paid for by Barbara Arnwine.
The topics, views, and opinions expressed on the air and via All Igniting Change with Barbara Arnwine, platforms by host Barbara Arnwine Esquire, guests, and supporters are their own and are independent of any organization, entity. Nothing said on the show or any of its platforms constitutes a client-attorney relationship or serves as legal. It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Arnwine.
Get up, stand up for your right.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm attorney Daryl Jones, the board chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and we are so excited that you have decided to spend your Tuesday afternoon here on WOL's Igniting Change Radio. Let me tell you, the last week has just been incredible, and we have just a great show in store for you today. As we speak, Barbara Arnwine is probably getting off the plane right about now down in Brunswick, Georgia. She is going to be joining us hopefully in a little bit on the show. She's down in Brunswick, Georgia, because this afternoon will begin the opening statement in the trial of Jackie Johnson, the disgraced DA in Glynn County that tried to hold or did hold the police back from doing their job and making the arrest and proceeding with the investigation of the 3 white vigilantes that killed Ahmaud Arbery back on February 23rd in 2020. Well, now she's on trial because of her actions. And we had promised you that we would be with that family, we'd be with this case until there was 100% justice for Ahmaud Arbery. We were there, as I like to say, we were there on first base when we got Daddy Gregory McMichael. We were there on second base when we got the son who was the shooter, Travis McMichael. We were there on third base when we got the neighbor that decided to jump in and help, and William Roddy Bryant. Now we're bringing it on home to the prosecutor who should have been doing her job, the elected prosecutor that decided that Ahmaud's life wasn't worth prosecuting. That's what Barbara Arnwine is right now. She's going to be in that house, in that courtroom, addressing what's happening and being there with the Arbery family. I hopefully will be joining her a little later this week, and I'll be in the courtroom with her as well. But my goodness, folks, you know, what a crazy week we've had. We've had almost not even a full 2 weeks, Dianne, of a new President Trump, and the world is just spinning. And today's show is entitled, Whose Streets? Our Streets, Making Good Trouble 2025, Fighting Unconstitutional and Other Wrongful Acts of the Trump Administration. Barbara, is that you? Okay, and Fighting Other Wrongful Acts of the Trump Administration. You know, Dianne Wilkerson, have you made it to us yet?
I'm here.
Okay. We have with us some great guests. We're going to have with us John Bacot, and Brother Bacot comes to us. He is a highly decorated and distinguished federal agent spanning 2 decades with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He retired as a supervisory special agent. Over the span of his career, he worked and supervised criminal and violent crimes and counterterrorism, domestic terrorism, counterintelligence matters. You know, he's also a disabled veteran, United States Navy veteran, as well as an entrepreneur and author, a former co-host of 1580 AM radio. And today He's a sought-after public speaker sharing his insights on Afrocentric ideologies, geopolitics, health, unity, and community. John, are you with us?
I am with you. Can you hear me okay? And thank you for having me.
We can hear you just great. Welcome on your maiden voyage here on Igniting Change with Barbara Arnwine and Daryl Jones. We also have with us Dianne Wilkerson. Dianne Wilkerson is the first African-American woman to serve in the state Senate in the state of Massachusetts. She's also a board member and the board treasurer for the Transformative Justice Coalition. So, Dianne, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Glad to be back. It feels like just in time, too, Daryl, huh?
Oh, my goodness. We got a lot to talk about because there's just so much that's happening. We also have with us Edward Ward. Edward Ward is one of our Transformative Justice Coalition fellows. He's worked with the Restorative Justice Policy Advocate. He's a youth crisis interventionist, and he serves as the Dean of Sherman School of Excellence. And boy, we're going to be talking about mass deportations. And you know, Edward Ward is right in the middle of it because he's coming out of the city of Chicago. Edward, please say hello. Welcome aboard.
How's it going? It's good to be here. I'm excited about this station's conversation today.
And we also have with us, joining us, another TJC fellow, a young brother who's just really been knocking it out of the park and just doing amazing things down in the state of Alabama. He's a student down in Alabama at one of the HBCUs down there, Alabama State University. He is just an incredible person. He's a TJC fellow and alumni. I think he's also a freedom rider, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not, we're going to have him being a freedom rider coming to Alabama very shortly. Bryson Powers. Bryson, are you with us?
I am here. Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad to be back with my TJC family.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Let's go ahead and jump right into this, Dianne, because you know the whole issue with mass deportation has just been incredible. What's going on right now, and you know what we see happening right now, and I'll lift up the city of Chicago as well as the state of Texas as an example, where we have ICE agents that are going into elementary schools and removing children to deport them. And, you know, the whole concept, you know, you're going into this elementary school. And, you know, and my sister was an elementary school teacher, and I used to substitute in them. I can only imagine the trauma, not simply to the student that you're coming after with these ICE agents in full regalia with ICE written all over it, news cameras because they want to make the big splash about what they're doing. So you're traumatizing these kids. You're traumatizing the kids that are watching the kids. You're traumatizing the teachers that are there in the classroom. Dianne, talk to us, particularly in Boston, Dianne.
You know, Daryl, I think first, Happy New Year to everyone. And I just want to say we're built for this, right? We really are. And so TJC has stepped into this space as they are used to occupying of the calm. Like we have to be about strategy. My granddaughter is emailed me, Daryl, because the ICE agents are at Boston's Children's Hospital. People who don't know, it is the #1 children's hospital in the United States of America. They're at the Boston Children's Hospital this morning. And so I can't imagine as children, can you, children, that fear, going to school, going to the hospital, looking, at the staff that have been really holding up the social service, the human service, the hospital, medical care, health care, senior care for the United States of America. We know that because it was highlighted during COVID. That is a big chunk of the population that our would-be government in charge has targeted. I don't think that there's an end game for them. They haven't really figured out the ramifications of what they're doing. But we have to be strategic about this. And it's hard not to be emotional, Derek. And I think that's the point that you raised. It's hard not to be emotional about it because it is so sick. It's so vile. It's so evil. But remember the whole point. Evil is the point. Evil is the point. And I think we're better than this.
And you know, Mr. Bacot, we're listening to this, and you have the background in law enforcement and all that's there. It had been the policy for years of our country's government to have certain areas that were just off limits, right? Schools, churches, off limits. This now has changed. This now has changed with this administration and what's happening. You know, what should we make of what we're seeing that's happening with these kids, as well as the other roundups that are occurring in these communities, Mr. Bacot?
I agree with Dianne. We have to have a concerted effort on steps necessary to actually go against the administration's goals to deport. First off, going into, like you mentioned, churches, schools, that was definitely off limits. Mosques, things of that nature, off limits. Hospitals should be off limits. But what we have here is, I'll have to say, a country now that has voted someone in, a felon, by the way, who's wanting to deport people who have not really done anything egregious. Many have not done anything egregious. There has to be a level of lawfulness. We have somehow gotten away, and most of you guys are attorneys on this line. We've gotten away from where is the law, because when you give someone in power, because that's what this is all about, power, 100% immunity from doing anything, and then that same cretin then wants to step down because he then will give 100% immunity to the people creating the infraction. So what we have to turn to is, what is it in our constitutional mandate? What is it in our federal laws? And what is it in our state laws where someone has to challenge the legality of this occurring just as much as as they call themselves, the right, have gone against the civil rights of Americans as a whole?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the scary part, and I know Barbara's on the line, I know she's going to weigh in. The scary part is we know that as they're doing these raids now, that they're not just taking people that are here illegally, right? They're taking people, in general. And after they've taken them all in, they'll find out that they have some Americans that they've got caught in their net, and they're like, well, we'll sort that out later. We don't need to, we're not going to, bother figuring that out now. We want them to have their papers with them to prove that they're Americans. They've swept up Native Americans, believing that they are not citizens or don't belong or are here illegally on their land. How incredibly offensive this is. Barbara, I know you wanted to weigh in. Welcome on, Barbara.
Hey, thank you, Daryl. Thanks, everybody. It's so good to be on the show. I just arrived in good old Brunswick on my way to that courthouse to be part of the Jackie Johnson trial. But before I get into that, let me talk about what you asked me, Daryl. I just want you to know that, one thing that I was very upset about during that birthright citizenship case, where he, somehow thought he could unilaterally issue an executive order because he thinks he's king, that would somehow invalidate the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. So he declares with a stroke of his pen that somehow there's no such thing as birthright citizenship. Well, in the arguments, what most people don't know is that when they were standing before the judge, there was one big issue of contention that was in their briefs. And what the U.S. Department of Justice, I call it the U.S. Department of Injustice, what they had the nerve to assert was that Native Americans aren't citizens. And they said that this was, based on the Cherokee cases from the 1829, 30, 31, that whole trilogy of cases. And what they forgot, folks, is that in 1924, there was an act passed, basically the Native American or, American Indian Sovereignty Act, which clarified the citizenship period, of Native Americans and made it quite clear that they are citizens. In fact, the 100th anniversary of that 1924 act was celebrated all around this country last year.